In a forgotten corner of London's Architecture Museum, there's a crumpled piece of paper behind glass that looks like trash. Most visitors walk right past it, but the ones who stop to read the description learn about the building that was never built and the man who learned that the structures we destroy with anger can never be rebuilt exactly as they were. Thomas Webb was the kind of architect other architects envied. At 42, he'd already designed 3 of London's most iconic modern buildings. His firm employed 60 people, and property developers competed for his attention. He had a beautiful wife named Catherine, 2 teenage daughters, and a reputation as a visionary. But Thomas had a secret that only the people closest to him knew. Behind the polished exterior was a man who ran on stress, coffee, and a temper that could turn volcanic without warning. His business partner was a man named David Chen, and they'd been friends since university 20 years earlier. Thomas was the creative genius, sketching impossible designs that made people gasp. David was the pragmatist, the one who figured out how to actually build. Thomas's dreams within budget and building codes. They balanced each other perfectly, or at least they had for 18 years. The firm they'd built together was their shared achievement, their joint legacy. Then came the project that would change everything, a massive development in Canary Wharf, a mixed-use complex that would include offices, flats, and public spaces. The contract was worth £40 million, the biggest commission their firm had ever received. Thomas poured himself into the design, working 18-hour days for 3 months. He created something extraordinary, a building that seemed to defy gravity, all curves and glass and light. It was his masterpiece, but when the clients saw the budget that David had prepared, they went quiet. The lead developer, a stern woman named Margaret Price, looked across the conference table and said words that made Thomas's stomach drop. "Mr. Webb, your design is stunning, truly visionary, but Mr. Chen's numbers show it would cost £62 million to build. We have £45 million budgeted. Unless you can bring this down significantly, we'll have to consider other firms." Thomas felt the blood drain from his face. 3 months of work, his best design ever, and it was going to be rejected because of money. He turned to David, who was sitting beside him looking uncomfortable. "David, what is this? How can it possibly cost that much?" David opened his spreadsheet on his laptop. "Thomas, I've been trying to tell you for weeks. The cantilever sections you designed, the custom glass panels, the structural requirements for those overhangs, it's all extremely expensive. I've run the numbers 4 different ways, and this is as low as I can get it without compromising structural integrity." Thomas could feel the anger building in his chest like steam in a kettle. "You've been trying to tell me? You never said the budget was impossible." David's voice stayed calm but firm. "I sent you 3 emails about cost concerns. You told me to make it work. That's what you always say." Margaret Price and the other clients were watching this exchange with growing discomfort. Thomas knew he should stop, should ask for a break, should handle this professionally. But the anger was already in control. "Make it work is not the same as telling me the whole project is a disaster. You've sabotaged me, David. You've made me look like an idiot in front of our biggest client." The conference room went silent. David's face changed, hurt replacing the professional mask. "Sabotaged you? Thomas, I'm trying to save this project. If you'd actually read my emails instead of dismissing them." Thomas stood up so fast, his chair rolled backward and hit the wall. "Don't you dare blame this on me! I'm the reason this firm exists. I'm the one with the vision while you sit there killing ideas with spreadsheets." Margaret Price stood as well, her expression cold. "Gentlemen, I think we need to end this meeting. We'll be in touch." She and the other clients gathered their things and left quickly, clearly appalled by what they'd witnessed. Thomas and David were left alone in the conference room. For a moment, neither spoke. Then David said quietly, "Do you know what, Thomas? You're right. You are the reason this firm exists. Your ego, your vision, your temper. Well, you can have it. All of it. I'm done." Thomas laughed, but it was a harsh sound. "You're done? You're quitting over one argument?" David was packing up his laptop. "This isn't one argument. It's 2 decades of me cleaning up after your tantrums, apologizing to people you've insulted, fixing projects you've nearly destroyed with your refusal to compromise. I've told myself it was worth it because we were building something together. But we're not building together anymore. You build. I just follow behind, trying to make it possible. I'm 50 years old, Thomas. I'm tired." He walked to the door, then turned back. "And by the way, we just lost that contract. Margaret Price's assistant texted me before she even left the building. They're going with Foster and Partners." David left, and Thomas stood alone. in the empty conference room surrounded by renders of his beautiful, impossible, now rejected building. The anger was still there, but underneath it, something else was growing. A cold, creeping realization that he'd just destroyed something he couldn't rebuild. Days passed, then weeks. David didn't come back to the office. His lawyer sent formal notice that he was dissolving the partnership and taking his 50% equity. Thomas tried to call him, but David wouldn't answer. He sent emails that got one-word replies. He even went to David's house, but David's wife Emma answered the door and said simply, "He doesn't want to see you, Thomas. Please respect that." The firm started falling apart. 3 senior architects quit within a month, loyal to David. Clients started pulling projects, worried about the instability. Thomas worked frantically to hold things together, but he was discovering something terrible. He couldn't do it alone. All those years he'd believed he was the essential one, the genius that made everything work. But David had been the foundation. David had been the one maintaining relationships, managing cash flow, keeping staff happy, handling the 1,000 invisible tasks that kept a business running. Without him, Thomas's brilliance had nothing to stand on. 6 months after that conference room explosion, Thomas's firm had shrunk to 15 employees. The Canary Wharf project had indeed gone to a competitor. Thomas was sitting in his office late one night, looking at the crumpled blueprint of that beautiful building that would never be built, when his daughter Rebecca came in. She was 17, smart and perceptive. "Mum said I'd find you here." She sat down across from him. "Dad, you look terrible." Thomas tried to smile. "Just tired, love." Rebecca looked at the blueprint. "Is that the building you and Uncle David fought about?" Thomas nodded, unable to speak. Rebecca was quiet for a moment. "You know what I remember most about Uncle David? He was the only adult who never seemed stressed when he was around us. Even at your big work parties, when you were tense and snapping at everyone, Uncle David would sit with me and Sophie and actually listen to us talk about school and stuff. Mum used to say he was the calm in your storm." Tears were running down Thomas's face now. "I destroyed it, Becca. I destroyed 20 years of friendship and partnership because I couldn't control my temper for 5 minutes. Your Uncle David saved me from myself 100 times. And the one time I needed to save our partnership, I chose anger instead." Rebecca reached across and took her father's hand. "So fix it." Thomas shook his head. "I've tried. He won't talk to me." His daughter gave him a look that was wise beyond her years. "Dad, you sent emails and showed up at his door." "That's not fixing it. That's still being the same Thomas who expects everyone else to accommodate him. If you really want to fix this, you have to show him you've actually changed. Not just that you're sorry." That conversation changed something in Thomas. He stopped trying to contact David and instead started working on himself. He began seeing a therapist who specialized in anger management. He learned about emotional triggers, about the physiological response of anger, about the pause between stimulus and reaction where choice lives. He started practicing meditation, which felt ridiculous at first, but gradually helped him recognize his anger before it controlled him. He restructured his firm, hired a managing director to handle operations, and started actually listening when people raised concerns. It took a year, a full year of work, of practice, of catching himself before he exploded and choosing a different response. His remaining staff noticed the change. His family noticed. Even clients started returning, hearing that Thomas Webb was different now, easier to work with. And then, one afternoon, David walked into Thomas's office unannounced. He looked older, grayer, but also more relaxed than Thomas remembered. They stared at each other for a long moment. Thomas stood up, his heart pounding, but he kept his voice calm and quiet. "David, thank you for coming." David nodded toward the chair. "Can I sit?" They sat across from each other like they had 1,000 times before. But everything was different now. David spoke first. "Emma's been following your progress. She says you've changed." Thomas didn't try to defend himself or make excuses. "I have. Not perfectly, not every day, but I'm not the man I was in that conference room. I'm trying to be better." David was quiet for a long time. "Do you know what hurt the most, Thomas?" "It wasn't the yelling. I'd dealt with that before. It was that you called my work sabotage. 20 years of partnership, and you actually believed I would try to undermine you." Thomas felt the familiar heat of shame. "I know, I was wrong. Completely, inexcusably wrong. You were doing your job, trying to save the project. And I turned on you because I couldn't handle the criticism." He paused, then added, "I'm not asking you to come back. I know I destroyed that. I just want you to know that I finally understand what I lost, and I'm sorry." David pulled something from his jacket pocket. It was an old photograph from their university days. The two of them standing in front of their first student project, young and full of dreams. "I've been carrying this around for 6 months," David said, "trying to remember why I put up with you for so long." He smiled, but it was sad. "And you know what I realized? You were worth it. Not the famous architect Thomas Webb, the friend I had before the success, before the ego took over. The guy who would stay up all night helping me with my projects, even though his own were already finished. That Thomas was worth everything." Thomas's voice cracked. "I don't know if that Thomas still exists." David looked at him carefully. "I think he does. I think he's been buried under stress and success and unchecked anger for a long time. But Emma showed me an article about you speaking at a conference last month about emotional intelligence in creative professions. The old Thomas would never have admitted he struggled with that. They talked for 2 hours. David didn't come back to the firm, but they began rebuilding something more important, their friendship, slowly, carefully, like architects constructing on damaged ground. Thomas learned that some structures, once destroyed, can't be rebuilt the same way. But if you're patient and honest, you can create something new on the same foundation. The lesson: your anger is like a wrecking ball. In seconds, it can destroy what took years to build. And while you can apologize, while you can change, while you can even rebuild, the new structure will never be exactly the same. Every relationship damaged by rage carries the scars, the memory of that moment when emotion won and judgment lost. Before you speak in anger, ask yourself this question: is what I'm about to say worth the cost of what I might lose? Because some words, once spoken, echo forever. The real power isn't in expressing every feeling the moment you feel it. The real power is in the pause, in the breath you take before you choose your response. That pause is where wisdom lives. That pause is where relationships are saved. Master that pause, and you master your life.